Alright. Hello, I am Eric Eubank, and this is my opinion, well, more of the pros and cons of Darksiders 1. I'll be mentioning various things from the other games, Darksiders 2, 3, and Genesis, but I'll be mainly focusing on explaining the pros and cons of Darksiders 1. For Darksiders 1, the main concept of the game is kind of a puzzle-based hack and slash with dungeons and such. You start out as this character who's known as one of the Four Horsemen, War. Just to give a brief explanation of the story of this game. As I said, he's one of the Four Horsemen. He is known as the strongest of the four. Well, he was sent to Earth when Heaven and Hell began fighting. Well, apparently he wasn't supposed to be there because something known as the Seventh Seal was not broken. The legend in this story is when the Seventh Seal is broken, the Four Horsemen ride and slay all demons and angels. Problem is, the Seventh Seal was never broken, though he was called. He heard the call and went to Earth to kill demons and angels. As he fought the demons and angels, he progressively lost power in his fight, until he was so weak that he was killed by a demon, which then got him sent back to the Charred Council. The Charred Council is kind of like God's, I guess, the best way to say is like they're the scale of balance, and if you tip that scale that they created, or that they are, then they send the horsemen to fix it. Anyways, the Charred Council was judging War, saying that he was breaking the pact that he made with the council. Problem is, he thinks that he was called. To prove his innocence, he's going to defeat the Destroyer and find out who's the real culprit behind him being tricked into attacking the demons and angels. Because at this point, he is being blamed for the war that's going on right now that destroyed Earth. Well, now that I've given a brief preface, or a brief backstory on the story of this game, let's go to the various different mechanics. It doesn't really have a proper leveling system, except for the weapons, which there are three. There's Chaos Eater, which is your main weapon, the sword you use constantly. The Scythe, which, because I have the remastered version of the game, I have something called the Harvester, also known as Death's Scythe. And the Tremor Gauntlet. These two you unlock by buying the weapon from Fulgrim, another demon that's kind of neutral. He's neither good nor bad. And then the Tremor Gauntlet is something you unlock in the story. These Lifestone shards are kind of like your way of increasing your health, like a lot of games do. You find the Lifestone shards throughout the world, or you buy a full skull from, I believe, Vulgrim? No, that would be the Wrath Shards. But yes, by defeating bosses and finding the different shards throughout the world, you can increase your health. As you can see, I've increased my health from 1 skull to 5 skulls, meaning I have 5 health bars above my base health bar. Then there's Wrath Shards. Wrath is kind of like your magic. You only have so much of it, and as you fight, you get these little soul-like things, kind of like the little blue one down there, except yellow. That's called a wrath soul that gives you wrath. To explain how wrath works, every full bar that you see under my health is 100 wrath. Well, this one consumes 1 bar of wrath, also known as 100 wrath, while this slowly drains it, giving me a higher defense. And the more wrath shards and cores that I collect, the more wrath I have. I was originally starting out with 2, and I upgraded it to 3. I'm still working on getting more. These are the abyssal shards, which there's only 10 of them in the entire game, and the only way you can gather all 10 of them is if you get towards the final boss, which you'll unlock an item called, I forget what it's called, something mask, but basically allows you to see into the shadow world, or the shadow realm, whichever you prefer. But once you get all 10 pieces, you get something called abyssal armor, which gives you immunity to poison, and as you do combos with any of these weapons, you'll start gathering start regenerating health. Now, as this obviously says, these are your passive abilities and these are your gears and equipment. I'm not very far in the game because I have to restart. But to explain, Earthcaller awakens these giant stone golems. Crossblade is just a giant ninja star that comes back to me, and Mercy is a pistol with infinite ammo. These are different abilities you can obtain from other demons and angels, or by taming a creature. The only creature you can obtain or to tame is Ruin, which is your horse. You get separated from him at the beginning of the game, and these other abilities you gain as you get stronger through the story. Now, back to the topic of these wrath abilities. There are only 4 in total. The third one is called Immolation, which is like Stone Skin, except it doesn't give you a strength or not a strength, a damage reduction. It gives you it envelops you in fire, kind of like the fire cloak from Skyrim, if you know what that is. Anyways, it sets any nearby enemies on fire and slightly enhances the attacks with your weapons. And then the last one's called Affliction, which is where you send these little skulls that poison your enemies, and the stronger your affliction is, and the more wrath it takes, the stronger the power. Stone Skin, as its name entails, it literally turns your skin to stone, making your defense rise incredibly and making it harder to hurt you. Blade Geyser, you basically stab your sword into the ground, and then blades start, I guess you could say, flying out of the ground, rising up into the air a little bit, hitting any enemy surrounding you. And then as you pull your sword back out, they disappear. If you didn't know what these are called your essence stones. If you fill it with life essence, it heals you. If you fill it with chaos essence, it fuels this which is known as which is known as the chaos form, which each of the 4 horsemen has a special transformation. There's also the Wrath Essence Shards, which you drain the wrath from it and it refills your wrath. And then there's the blue one, which I forget what they call it, but basically it you use it and it'll resurrect you, kind of like Phoenix Down from Final Fantasy, if you know what that is. There are various different enchantments and legendary enchantments in the game. Each one has its own very special ability. As you can tell, I currently have one equipped to each of these. The one I currently have for my sword actually increases the experience my sword gets. The reason I say experience is because each of those glowing symbols that is at the top of my sword is a level of strength for my sword. If it's not obvious, I don't use the other two very often. I always prefer to use the sword. Aside from that, the only thing that's left is the artifacts, which there's all over the world, and you can give them to Vulgrim, and he will give you souls. The last thing I'd like to say is, this game is great for if you're a big fan of, like, the supernatural and, like, hack and slash games, because that's what this is. It's just, I guess you could say it's kind of the personification of a dungeon crawler combined with a hack and slash. The story is simple, the areas, there is a bit of like climbing and such, and other than that, it's just an overall very fun game. The only real problems I have with it are sometimes when you go to hit your opponent, it won't register, but other than that, the game's really fun, and I highly recommend it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and peace out.